Recording in progress.
Universal Humanism, Kartini and Kamudia Anantatur.
Apa sih humanisme? Apalagi humanisme universal. Sepertinya sesuatu yang ada jauh di atas yang arah dari kaya, bukan di sini. Di antara kehidupan jalan
What kind of creature is humanism? It's like a far away from among us. It's like in the sky, not here, among the hitchhikes and the smell of sweet after planting rice.
orang anak manusia dapat bercerdas dengan cara membangun kehidupan baru manusia seperti yang mengatakan, mari kita bersama karena kita pasti.
The human child feels terrible with his ideals to build a new, better, and more advanced civilization that doesn't have a difference about who you are, who I am, but will say, let's be together, and because we are wherever we are.
Dia mungkin tidak mengerti ataupun terminologi. Dia hanya tahu bahwa setiap manusia sama dengan kebutuhannya masing-masing. Namun menuju pada tujuan bersama yang saling menghargai dan memajukan tanpa.
We may be not be creative with many terms, categories, definition, or terminology. He only knows that every human being is the same with their own uniqueness, with their own needs, but towards a common life that respect each other and act things without harm.
Kembali kita terjebak pada dan kamu semua yang tahu sesungguhnya manusia ini itu kehumanisme secara sederhana, tapi ini nampaknya akan banyak yang tidak sama. Ya, humanisme adalah campur tidak dengan guyonan mesra.
Then who is she? Again, we are stuck on him or she. Who am I and who are you? He or she and I are actually the same. Human with our humanity. Maybe that's just simple. Human is worth drinking coffee and snacking. It seems that many will be discussed. If humanism is just a cup of coffee and a snack plate with human-friendly jokes. Let's be little bit serious about humanism.
Orang bicara tentang humanisme, bahkan sebagian mungkin mengklaim diri sebagai humanis. Karena masing-masing tentu punya selera sendiri.
Many people talk about humanism, and some of them may even claim to be humanists, no matter what they have in mind, because each other of them have their own way of interpreting the meaning of humanism.
Yang mengaku sebagai humanis belum tentu benar-benar humanis. Sementara yang humanis itu tapi begitulah salah satu pandangan dari seseorang.
Who claim to be humanists, not necessarily a humanist. Well, the real humanists do not want to claim to be a humanist. It is funny too, for that's one view from the part of the world.
Humanisme tidak menyentuh aspek spiritual manusia secara teraksana.
Humanism doesn't touch the spiritual aspect of man transcendentally.
Humanisme memuji seorang manusia bahwa berdasarkan diri pada atas dan keinginan manusia terlepas dari
Pure or humanism is pure as a human being with natural logic and rationality. All base themselves on morality, rationality, and human self-reliance, reliance, independent of the element of the region.
moralitas. Kami adalah humanisme merupakan suatu keyakinan atau prinsip perjalanan hidup seorang manusia yang mencari kebenaran melalui logika dan rasionalitasnya untuk tujuan dan bersama.
And in summary, perhaps it can be concluded that humanism is a belief or principle of living life as a human being who seeks the truth through logic and rationality for the sake of progress and common good.
Karena keyakinan ini mendunia, artinya melibatkan berbagai manusia dari seluruh belahan dunia. Istilah ini bersama manusia dan bukan
And because this belief is global, meaning that it involves various people from all over the world, the term universal appears and attached to the terminology of humanism.
Terasa tidak akan ada habisnya bila kita bicara tentang humanisme secara detail, mengingat begitu banyak definisi aliran maupun banyak pendapat tentang humanisme yang masing-masing terhubung bawah dan meyakini kebenaran.
For to be true, there will be no end if we continue to talk about humanism in detail, considering there are so many definitions and many aspects, and many opinions about humanism, each which bring and believe its own truth.
Yang butuh waktu sehari atau bahkan seminggu penuh. Sebenarnya diskusi yang saya terbatas, saya kira berdasarkan tadi kita bicara sedikit ini dan yang sehubungan dengan manusia.
And it may take a day or even a full week to discuss the detail given the very limited time, place, and area of discussion. I think it's time for us to talk a little bit, just a little, about Kartini and Pramudia relation to their humanism.
Siapakah Pramudia anak Nabi? Keduanya adalah tokoh besar negeri di pada masa. Raden Ajeng Kartini lahir di Jepara, Jawa Tengah pada tanggal 24 April 1870.
And who is Kartini and who is Pramudia Anantathur? Both of them are big figures in this country, their respective field. And Raden Ajeng Kartini was born in Jepara, Central Java, on 21 April 1879.
Kartini terkenal karena pemikiran yang maju jauh melalui zaman saatnya yang nasional. Kebenaran wanita bangsanya maju dan tidak merupakan sebuah tidak laki-laki telah mendorongnya untuk berjuang keras melalui.
And Kartini was famous for her advanced thinking far beyond her time. Her fierce desire to see the women of her nation progress and not to subordinate man had caused her to strive hard toward education.
Terlepas dari perbedaan geografi antara wanita dan pria, Kartini meyakini bahwa wanita bangsanya banyak untuk bisa sejajar dan setara dengan
And regardless of the natural differences between women and men, Kartini believed that the women of her nation deserved to be equal with a man.
kepada para sahabatnya. Dia sering menggunakan sirapnya tentang keinginannya memajukan wanita. Kepada teman-temannya, dia sering menulis surat yang mengungkapkan cita-citanya tentang adanya kesamaan.
And to his friends, she often poured out his heart about his desire to advance the women of her country. Where are her friends? She often wrote letters expressing her ideas about the equality of women's rights.
Dia ingin wanita memiliki kebebasan menuntut diri dan belajar. Perhatiannya tidak hanya semata-mata soal hak-asasi wanita, tapi juga masalah sosial.
She wants women become have a freedom to study and learn. And she concern is not only about women expectation, but also general and social issues.
Kartini melihat perjuangan wanita agar memperoleh kebebasan ekonomi dan sama hukum sebagai bagian dari gerakan lebih luas. Pada surat-surat Kartini tertulis pemikiran-pemikirannya tentang kondisi sosial saat itu.
And Kartini sees that female fighters, in order to gain autonomy and freedom of law as part of wider movement, Kartini's letters were written about her thoughts on the social condition at the time.
Tentang kondisi ini. Sebagian besar surat-suratnya berisi keluhan dan gugatan, khususnya budaya di Jawa yang dipandang sebagai penghambat kemajuan.
And especially about the condition of native women. Most of her letters contain the complaints and lawsuits, especially regarding the culture in Java, which is seen as an obstacle for women's progress.
Surat yang dituliskan kepada sahabat-sahabat yang menjadi bukti betapa besarnya keinginan seorang nabi untuk melepaskan kaumnya dari diskriminasi sudah
And the letter written to her friends, who was in the Netherlands, later became a proof of how much Kartini wanted to free her people from the discrimination that had become entrenched in her time.
Perjuangan Kartini tidak hanya tertulis di atas kertas, tapi dibuktikan dengan mendirikan sekolah gratis untuk anak-anak gadis di Jepara dan Rembang. Dan apa yang dilakukannya dengan sekolah itu juga diikuti oleh wanita-wanita lainnya. Ini tetap masing-masing seperti Semarang, Surabaya, Yogyakarta, Malang, dan Cirebon.
And Kartini's struggle is not only written on paper, but is proved by establishing a free school for girls from Jepara and Rembang. And what she did with the school was followed by other women by establishing Kartini schools in their place, such as like Semarang, Surabaya, Yogyakarta, Malang, Madiun, and Cirebon.
Setelah meninggalnya Kartini, surat-surat tersebut kemudian dihubungkan dan ditemukan di sebuah buku yang betul habis gelap berubah.
After Kartini died, the letters were collected and published into a book that had the title of the After the Talkers Comes the Light.
Apa yang terdapat dalam buku itu sangat besar berpengaruh dalam mendorong kemajuan wanita Indonesia. Karena isi tulisan tersebut telah menjadi sumber motivasi perjuangan bagi wanita Indonesia di dunia.
The content of the message has become source of motivation for the power of struggle are Indonesian women in the future.
Buku itu menjadi pendorong semangat para wanita Indonesia dalam perjuangan hak Tetapi juga perlu diingat bahwa beliau mengamankan bukan wanita yang tidak lagi subordinat. Masa generasi sekarang secara agenda.
And for is a driving force for the enthusiasm in Indonesian women in fighting for their rights. Keep in mind that she emphasized the position of women who are no longer subordinate to men, or the now language is generation gender, it's like a gender equality.
Beliau tidak menyukai konotasi. Sekolah yang didirikan saat ini juga
low battery, please charge.
masak dan sebagainya yang merupakan keadilan dasar wanita.
And the
Low
cadence,
battery, please charge.
and the card in his school was
Low battery,
like
please charge.
she also talked about sewing, embroidery, cooking, and also so on with basic skill of women at the time. That's it about Kartini.
Kemudian ada satu dulu dia. Ya, kita membayangkan. Dalam video Asia, saya tinggi di area di auditoriumnya yang penuh sesak. Orang memandang. Kemudian anak satu dulu.
Then Pramudia Anantathur, he is in New York. How do we imagine this? It's the end of April. Inside the Asia Society building, on the edge of the venue, it is crowded auditorium. People look up, and they know and Pramudia Anantathur is in New York.
Orang sadar bahwa di panggung yang pertama itu ada sesuatu yang datang dari situ.
Something more unexpected. People realized that on the stage that was a set, there was something that came from a gloomy experience.
Kemudian yang lain pada masa kepercayaan Belanda dan dulu dan yang menurut bakat yang melakukan tulis-tulis banyak menulis karya yang bersifat perjuangan. Kemudian
Pramudia Anantathur, who was born during the Dutch colonial era and grew up during the revolution and inherited his father's writing talent, wrote a lot of works that are in the character of the nation's struggle against colonialism.
itu berisi melakukan perang untuk membela orang-orang tindas dan menyuarakan.
Then his life was bitter because he endured years of detention in which Sukarno and Suharto had produced the great works that raised ideas about the struggle for oppression and oppression. The work contained about Pram's effort to defend the oppressed and voice their suffering. That's what Tita Indasari said. Tita Indasari as teacher and female activist.
Esensi yang membangun karya kata tidak terlibat ekonomi dan budaya ada dan itu adalah praktek kolonialisme dan globalisme.
And the sense of work and oppression in the field of politics, economy, and culture is in Pramudia Anantathur's book, and that is the practice of colonialism and feudalism.
Tema pemasukan betul paksa dan kekawanan jauh dari bulan Pram yang lahir di Blora 6 Februari 1920.
The theme of the inclusion of freedom and resistance to oppression become dominant because it is not so far from the life of Pram, was born in Blora 6 February 1925.
Pram kenyang dengan berbagai pengalaman dari pakar hak dan kebebasan. Dia banyak menghabiskan hidupnya di balik terai penjara, baik pada zaman revolusi kemerdekaan, zaman pemerintahannya, maupun di era pemerintahan.
Pram is full of various experiences in the form of deprivation of rights and freedoms. He spent much of his life behind bars from the era of independence revolution, era Soekarno, and era Suharto. The resistance process that was conceived to be the inspiration.
Masa-masa suram yang pahit dan kemerdekaan sekarang telah berujung kebebasan dan kemerdekaan.
And Pramudya in New York, a bitter and teary period full of oppression and pressure, has culminated into freedom and independence.
Karya-karya Pram telah mendiri dan menginspirasi diri. Perjuangan melawan ketertiban dan akan mendapatkan kebebasan dan kesetaraan adalah sebuah perjuangan.
And Pram has lived it. Pram is known by the world. His work has been worldwide, and it's inspired the world. The struggle against the oppression for freedom and equality is a sweet and universal struggle.
Memang sedikit saja kita kasih, tapi sudah cukup paling tidak menunjukkan beliau adalah humanis. Humanis kasih adalah humanisme. Tapi tidak lain, kami dia akan takut pun menanyakan kebijakan yang humanis.
Indeed, that is just a little about Kartini, but it is not enough. But at least it is to show that she is a humanist. Kartini humanism is universal humanism. And to other fields, in the field of literature, Pramoedya Anantatur also expressed humanist through his writing.
Masih juga. Mari kita berdiam mesra dengan kemanusiaan.
Is our coffee still good? Our snack still crunchy? Let's have a friendly joke with our humanity to keep our dishes delicious and crunchy. So that's all. Regrets.